Our story begins with a guy named Shizuki, who is a middle school student. One day when he enters his classroom, he overhears a group of girls talking about him. They mention to one of the girls that they've seen her talking to Shizuki sometimes. They think him as a creep. The girl replies that Shizuki is disgusting, plain, and simple, but she adds that if they associate with someone beneath them, doesn't it make them look better? Hearing this, the other girls comment that she is really dark. Overhearing this, Shizuki feels very sad. This memory is from Shizuki's past. He recalls that on that day he discovered the horror hidden in beauty and realized how low his position was, leaving him broken. Now in the present, Shizuki is sitting in class when a guy comes up to him and tells him they need to go to the cafeteria. Shizuki politely responds that he'll join them once he finishes his notes. The guy comments that Shizuki is a slow writer. Shizuki disagrees, explaining that it's just hard for him to see from the back of the class. The guy agrees and adds that Shizuki needs to hurry or Haruno will steal his seat. Shizuki nods in agreement. When the guy leaves, Shizuki feels happy that his plan has worked perfectly. He thinks back to the day he decided to make a fresh start in high school and how he worked hard to fix all his flaws. After just a week, he's managed to become part of the social middle class he's always dreamed of. Considering he was at the very bottom in middle school, he feels this is a complete success. He recalls that he took entrance exams for a reasonably advanced school, so no one knows about his shadowy past, except for one person, Shizuka Kusunoki, a girl from the same middle school. Rumored to be the most beautiful girl in her year as soon as she entered, there are already stories about her being confessed to and being a model. Shizuka hasn't talked to her directly, but he believes he knows what kind of girl she is. According to him, Kusunoki is just like him. They are in different classes, but they used to go to the library together, so they know each other. At this moment, some boys are standing with Kusunoki. He stands up, reminding himself that he decided not to involve himself with beautiful women ever again. He firmly tells himself that avoiding Kusunoki is for the best. Shizuki leaves the classroom, thinking that even though they were both members of the bottom class, he doesn't believe they will ever talk about it in the future. As Shizuki is walking, he notices Kusunoki following him and looking at him. Suddenly, she steps in front of him and loudly calls for him to wait and help her. Everyone around looks at her, wondering what happened, but she only calls for Shizuki. He is completely stunned, not knowing what to make of the situation. He had thought they might go home the same way, but didn't expect her to talk to him. He also worries about what she wants from him. Tears start to well up in Kusunoki's eyes as she apologizes to Shizuki with a heavy heart. Shizuki is surprised by Kusunoki's move. She then tells him that she is in a lot of trouble right now and would really appreciate it if Shizuki could talk with her. Shizuki wonders what could be bothering her. Kusunoki explains politely that since they went to the same middle school, it's something only he can help with. With a cute, smiling face, she adds that it's been a while and just wanted to quickly say that he has changed a lot. Hearing this, Shizuki is surprised and feeling anxious, loudly replies that she has changed a lot too. Kusunoki is shocked by his outburst. Realizing what he did, Shizuki quickly stops himself. Kusunoki becomes shocked and asks if he is okay. It seems she has triggered his symptoms. Ever since that day when his heart was broken by making eye contact with a beautiful woman, he developed a condition that causes him to suffer from mysterious health problems. Shizuki calmly tells her that nothing is wrong and mentions that it's too crowded here, so they should talk in the park. They both head to the park and sit on a bench. Kusunoki politely asks if he understands her situation. In other words, she changed her appearance but couldn't change what's inside. She has tried avoiding conversation but is running out of steam. He asks if she came to him for advice because they went to the same middle school. Kusunoki confirms that he is correct. Shizuki looks down and thinks that he could have managed if he just hadn't looked into her eyes. He tries to reassure her, commenting that he isn't good at communicating either. Confused, Kusunoki says that's not true. She tells him politely that he talks to everyone in class normally and has already made friends, adding that she really respects him for that. Shizuki, also confused, asks what she means, pointing out that she has friends too. Kusunoki looks down and sadly mentions that she doesn't have any. Shizuki is surprised by this. Kusunoki tells him that she doesn't consider Shizuki's friends to be real friends just because they talk to him. As for the girls in class, it seems like they are avoiding her. Shizuki is amazed and looks at her curiously. He realizes that from an outsider's point of view, she is surrounded by boys, which could leave a bad impression. He thinks she looked like a big success and didn't expect her situation to be like his. Kusunoki mentions that if she can change her appearance, but not what's inside. There is no point. She tells him that she was alone in middle school because she was a bad person. As he looks at her, he suddenly remembers his own past. Abruptly, he stands up from the bench and loudly tells her to be more confident. Kusunoki is completely surprised by this revelation. He asks her why she wanted to make a high school debut. He adds that changing her appearance so much means she put in a lot of effort. He urges her to take small steps and assures her that as she gets used to talking and communicating, it will come to her easily. As Shizuki is shouting at her, he suddenly realizes that he is looking into her eyes and talking without feeling sick. Shizuki picks up his bag and starts to leave, but Kusunoki quickly stops him and asks him to wait. Shizuki is shocked and turns back to face her. She asks how she should take small steps. He politely suggests that if she can make one friend to talk to, the rest will be easy. Out of nowhere, she asks if he would like to be friends with her. Shizuki looks at her shocked. She clarifies that he is someone she can talk to and begins begging him to be friends with her. Shizuki, confused, wonders why she wants to be friends with him. He questions why he should help her, thinking that if Kusunoki improved her communication skills, she would only become more popular. Eventually, her personality would shift, and she would gradually realize where she stood. Shizuki realizes that everything he thought is true, but if he rejects her offer, she will be alone. When he looks at her face, he sees her sad expression. Seeing her condition, Shizuki accepts her offer. Kusunoki is stunned when she hears this. Tears well up in her eyes as she happily thanks him for his kindness. Shizuki tells her that while they are going to be friends, it's only a temporary arrangement until she makes other friends. Kusunoki gives him a sweet smile and says she is still happy. Looking at her face, Shizuki is confused and wonders if there is something special about her eyes and if he is cured. Kusunoki thanks him again, calling him a friend, and says she feels good to have met him. Shizuki thinks he doesn't really understand it, but if it doesn't cause symptoms, it's a good thing. He also considers that although they are now friends, it's not like their relationship will change much. The next day at school, during break time, Shizuki sits at his seat for lunch. Suddenly, Kusunoki comes over and sits in front of him at the same table. Shizuki feels angered by this, thinking that just because they are friends doesn't mean men and women usually sit across from each other at the table. He wonders what she is thinking. When the other students see them, they start talking about the two of them. Some girls whisper that Kusunoki is quick to attach herself to him, while some of the guys wonder why Shizuki is with her. Shizuki is astonished by the situation, thinking that everyone is misunderstanding everything. With a smiling and polite face, Kusunoki tells him that she always wanted to eat with a friend like this. Shizuki is shocked by her words. Some of Shizuki's friends come over and teasingly tell him they are going to the cafeteria on their own, encouraging him to take his time and enjoy the moment. Shizuki becomes more frustrated. He turns to Kusunoki, about to say something, but she politely asks him what's wrong. Instead, he puts his head on the table and sadly says he has nothing to say. He thinks this is the consequence of helping people. Feeling sorry for Kusunoki, who has never eaten with a friend before, he decides that, just for today, he will play this friend's game. With a cute face, Kusunoki asks if she can call him Kisuke from now on. Shizuki makes a perplexed face, but she asks again, mentioning that they are friends now. Shizuki gives her permission and comments that she can do what she wants. He stands up from the chair and tells her he will go buy some drinks for them. Kusunoki also says she will go with him. He didn't know just yet how his dream about a peaceful high school life was going to get turned upside down. While walking through the hallway, he comes across an even bigger threat, his bully from middle school. Shizuki starts feeling the symptoms again. Kusunoki, worried, asks if he is all right. He turns around and looks at her again. Horrified, he is unable to believe this is actually happening. The person who caused his trauma is standing in front of him. He had searched through all the names on the class roster and didn't see the name Hebikawa or Riza. Then another girl calls out to Hebikawa, asking about the situation. She turns to Shizuki, asking if he's all right. Shizuki quickly hides his face, saying he is fine. Hebikawa then turns to Kusunoki and asks if she is his friend. Kusunoki replies yes. Hebiko suggests that Shizuki doesn't look well and might need to go to the infirmary. She steps closer and asks him to take care of himself. After saying this, Hebiko goes on her way. Shizuki watches her, feeling confused by her eyes, her voice, and the ribbon in her hair. He realizes there's no mistaking it. She is definitely the same person. He holds his head in anxiety, thinking that his peaceful high school days are now over. Kusunoki suggests that they go to the infirmary if he's feeling unwell, and offers to carry him if he can't walk. But Shizuki, still focused on Hibikawa, loudly declares that he won't let things end like this. Kusunoki is surprised by Shizuki's sudden behavior. Shizuki adds that he is not going to let her ruin his life and explains that he made a fresh start in high school for a reason. He remarks that he said goodbye to her in the past. When Shizuki loudly declares that's all, Kusunoki is stunned and doesn't understand what's going on, but out of fear, she agrees with everything he says. Kusunoki then asks if he is feeling better now. Shizuki replies that he is fine. He realizes that if he stays focused on his school life, it shouldn't be a problem. He is determined to maintain the peaceful school life he has finally achieved. As school ends and everyone is in the classroom, Kusunoki approaches Shizuki with a cute expression and asks if they can go home together. This is actually a big challenge for Shizuki. When the other students hear this, they are all surprised. Meanwhile, Shizuki starts stammering. Kusunoki asks if he has to go somewhere else. Shizuki lies and replies yes. She then gives him a sweet smile and says that if that's the case, it's fine, and she can wait for him. Shizuki feels guilty, thinking her smile is too bright. Some of the boys from the class come over, teasingly commenting that going home together sounds fun. Shizuki starts sweating. One boy places a hand on Shizuki's shoulder and says that Shizuki seems to be on good terms with Kusunoki. One of the boys asks if Shizuki is going out with Kusunoki. Shizuki is stunned and nervously thinks that if these popular students notice him, things will only get worse. He quickly replies that they are not going out and starts running away. The boys watch him leave, commenting on how it's a shame he's going home today. They then tell Kusunoki that she should come with them instead. After a while, Shizuki walks down the streets in a bad mood, muttering that nothing good is going to happen today, and that it has been a terrible day. He also feels bad about leaving Kusunoki behind. As he walks with these thoughts, Kusunoki suddenly calls out to him from behind. When he looks back, he is completely surprised to see her. Kusunoki greets him respectfully. Confused and worried, Shizuki asks her why she is here. She replies that she was chasing him and comments that she is very tired. Shizuki asks if she was running while trying to catch up with him and wonders why she would go so far. With a cute, smiling face, she says that she wanted to go home with him. Shizuki nervously puts his hand on his face. She then asks if he dislikes it. He replies that it's not that he dislikes it. He loudly tells her that, no matter how much they are friends, it's not normal for a man and a woman to go home together. Kusunoki is shocked by this. He adds that even eating lunch together isn't ideal for them. She asks why it looks so bad. He explains that people might misunderstand their relationship. After saying this, he continues on his way and tells her not to talk too much in the classroom. Shizuki feels like Kusunoki understands his point. She calls out to him again and says that she hasn't had the chance to talk to many people. She asks him for advice on how she can create more opportunities to interact with others. Shizuki feels bad for her. Kusunoki then politely asks if she can call him at night from now on. Shizuki looks back at her and loudly asks if she means a phone call. She confirms and explains that they can talk on the phone without any misunderstandings. She repeats her request. Shizuki thinks that calling a female friend at night is not appropriate. He wonders if she is being odd or if he is overthinking the situation. Kusunoki continues to ask very politely and Shizuki looks at her confused. Later, Shizuki is at home, lying on his bed and looking at his phone. It's 2:35 a.m. He glances at Kusunoki's phone number saved in his contacts and thinks about the moment she asked to talk on the phone. He was confused at the time but agreed to her request. Now they both have each other's phone numbers saved. When Kusunoki sees Shizuki's phone number, she is amazed. She politely asks if she can call him tonight. Shizuki is initially surprised but agrees. He mentions that he will call her himself. She agrees and says she will wait for his call. Shizuki says this because he needs to prepare himself. Kusunoki, with a cute smile, tells him she will be waiting. Shizuki lies on his bed, thinking about what he should do next. He doesn't really want to make the call and he's unsure what to talk about. He adds that he has no idea because he hasn't spoken to her in so long. As he lies there, his eyes land on the alarm clock. He picks it up and sets it for 10 minutes. He decides he will talk to her for only 10 minutes. Then he makes the call. When Shizuki calls, he starts with a hello and introduces himself. Kusunoki responds with her name. Shizuki apologizes for calling so late, and Kusunoki reassures him and thanks him for calling. After that, Shizuki falls silent, realizing he's being awkward and needs to say something. He begins with small talk, asking if it's colder tonight compared to yesterday. Kusunoki replies that it is. Shizuki adds that he's really bad with cold weather and asks about her preference. Kusunoki simply replies that she doesn't mind. Shizuki feels uncomfortable, thinking she isn't giving much detail, and feels awkward about the conversation. Noticing there are only 5 minutes left, he decides he needs to choose a safe topic. He asks her about her hobbies or something similar. Kusunoki replies that she likes watching anime and reading manga. Shizuki is surprised by her choice of hobbies and says he enjoys the same things. He asks her what genre she likes. She begins to explain in great detail. After hearing her lengthy explanation, Shizuki feels uncomfortable and thinks she's become very talkative when discussing her favorite series. He comments that she sounds like a stereotypical otaku. Kusunoki asks if he has a favorite manga. Shizuki thinks about his childhood favorite and tells her that he likes a manga called *Noah*. She replies that she also likes it and mentions she owns all the volumes. Suddenly, the alarm clock starts ringing. Shizuki looks at it, and Kusunoki asks what the sound is. Shizuki tells her it's nothing and then asks if she's heard the rumor about the third part being serialized next year. Kusunoki becomes more curious and asks him to give her all the details about it. The next day, while Shizuki is sitting in class and feeling dizzy, he checks his phone and notices the call timer from his conversation with Kusunoki. He's surprised to see it lasted 1 hour and 32 minutes. He's confused about how it went on for so long. Feeling a bit unsettled, he comments that he never expected they'd be on the same wavelength. He reassures himself, thinking it's because he's an otaku at heart too. Kusunoki enters the classroom. Shizuki notices she looks gloomy and is surprised to see her like this. Kusunoki places her bag on the desk and wishes Shizuki good morning. He responds with a good morning of his own. As he looks at her, he wonders what might have happened since she was so cheerful yesterday. Then he shakes his head, realizing he doesn't need to worry about it. He decides that during school hours he should try to avoid her as much as possible. Thinking about this, Shizuki tries to avoid talking to Kusunoki, but he can't help glancing at her. When school lets out and everyone is getting ready to go home, Shizuki calls out to Kusunoki in the corridor. He approaches her and she asks if something is wrong. He replies that it's nothing. He feels unsure about what to say, but eventually he calmly tells her that he noticed she seems very down today. Even though he had intended to avoid saying anything, he realizes that if he doesn't speak up, it will be even more awkward for him. As Kusunoki begins to talk about their phone call from yesterday, she realizes she was the one who spoke the entire time. With a sad expression, she apologizes to Shizuki. Her face clearly shows her regret. Shizuki is stunned by her reaction and thinks that she is feeling down because of this. He reassures her that their phone calls are meant to help her get used to talking and that there's no need to worry. It's not a big deal. Despite this, Kusunoki remains sad. She sits down and says it felt very one-sided, mentioning that she was the only one who had fun and that she feels awful about it. Shizuki feels bad for her and kindly tells her not to apologize. He adds that their conversation was surprisingly enjoyable. She is surprised by his comment. Suddenly, Shizuki's friends, Haruno and Tsuji, arrive. Shizuki is startled to see them. They ask what he is doing and mention that they were looking for him because he suddenly disappeared. They come closer and ask if they're interrupting. One of them adds that Shizuki seems to be forgetting his friends. Shizuki politely assures them that it's not like that. Haruno then asks what exactly his relationship with Kusunoki is. Suddenly, Shizuki bids farewell to Kusunoki, leaving her surprised by his abrupt behavior. He tells her to go home, and she agrees. His friends look disappointed and politely ask if he is really not going with Kusunoki. They apologize to Shizuki for their earlier remarks. Shizuki reassures them that he already mentioned he's not involved in such things. Meanwhile, as Kusunoki is heading home, she suddenly stops and turns back. She calls out to Shizuki with a cheerful smile and says that she also had a lot of fun last night. She then wishes him goodbye. Shizuki and his friends are left completely surprised by this. Shizuki worries about what his friends will say next. His friends look at him with annoyance and teasingly remark that it seems like he had a lot of fun last night. Shizuki hurriedly tries to explain that nothing like that happened and insists it's all a misunderstanding. In class, Hiranum sternly asks Shizuki if he really hasn't done anything with Kusunoki. Shizuki tries to stay calm and repeats that they don't have that kind of relationship. Hiranum admits he doesn't fully trust him. Shizuki thinks they're giving him a headache and notes that Kusunoki's vague words are to blame. Tsuji adds that Shizuki is the only guy Kusunoki calls by his first name, and they both seem unusually close. Tsuji adds that, in his opinion, they look quite close. Harunam agrees with him. Shizuki explains that he and Kusunoki just happen to attend the same middle school, and she's the girl he's closest to among his friends. Harina was surprised to hear they went to the same middle school and says Shizuki is lucky. He commends that Kusunoki must have been very pretty back then and wishes he had seen her. Hearing this, Shizuki stands up and loudly tells them to stop and end the conversation. The guys look at him in confusion. Harina then says he wants to get along with Kusunoki too, and asks if Shizuki can arrange for them to have lunch together. Shizuki steps forward and firmly declines. He thinks it's out of the question since Kusunoki struggles with communication and Harano can't sit still. As Shizuki comes down the stairs, the thought of Kusunoki and Harano meeting makes his head ache. Then he realizes that if they could get along, he wouldn't need to worry about Kusunoki making friends. He thinks that if he can make this happen, one threat to his peaceful high school life will be removed. Just then, from the other side of the corridor, Hibiko approaches and they bump into each other, causing her books to fall. Shizuki apologizes and asks if Hibiko is okay. As he looks at her, he is shocked to see her sitting on the floor. Hibiko comments that they keep bumping into each other and adds with a cute smile that they seem to have a habit of meeting like this. Suddenly, Shizuki bows his head and starts to shout in frustration. Hibiko is surprised by his reaction. Just then, Suji arrives and observes the scene, noting that Shizuki seems to be having quite a meltdown. Suji comes closer and asks what happened. Hibiko explains that she thinks Shizuki suddenly got sick. Suji is stunned by this. Hibiko then turns to Shizuki and politely asks if he can stand. She asks Suji to help her pick up the scattered books. As they assist Shizuki and gather the books, Hibiko comments that they are such good friends. With a sweet smile, she tells Shizuki to take care of himself. As Hibiko leaves, Suji suddenly grabs Shizuki and asks if he's friends with her. Shizuki, trembling, insists that Suji is mistaken and that he has no connection with her. Harano asks Suji if he knows Hibiko. Suji replies that he does and mentions that he knows all about the pretty girls in their year. He explains that Hibiko is from class 8 and is rumored to be the second prettiest girl in their year. Harano then asks who the first prettiest girl is. Suji says that the prettiest girl is Kusunoki. Shizuki turns to him, full of attitude, and asks if that's why he should be grateful for getting along with Kusunoki. Suji replies that he'd also like a chance to get to know her better and asks Shizuki to help him out. Shizuki agrees to ask Kusunoki. Suji is pleased to hear this. Later, Shizuki calls Kusunoki and asks if they can have lunch together. She declines, saying she isn't interested. Shizuki is surprised and asks if she's really rejecting his offer. Kusunoki confirms that she is. Shizuki is surprised that Kusunoki flatly rejects his lunch invitation. Kusunoki asks what he wanted to discuss, as he mentioned he needed to ask her something. Shizuki explains that he wants her to see it as a crash course to improve her communication skills and notes that she has nothing to lose by participating. Kusunoki clarifies that when she mentioned eating together, she meant only Hirano would be joining them. Shizuki adds that Suji will also be there and politely asks if she is comfortable with having more people around. Shizuki assures Kusunoki that Hirano will be a better friend than he is. To his surprise, Kusunoki disagrees, saying that if they're having lunch together, he should be there too. She adds that she won't be coming otherwise, and her sadness is apparent. Shizuki notices her downcast expression and asks if she's upset with him. He also apologizes, feeling responsible for her distress. Kusunoki says she's going to sleep and hangs up. Shizuki looks at his phone, noting that their call lasted about 15 minutes. He's puzzled, wondering if she's angry with him or if he said something wrong. Meanwhile, Kusunoki sits on the floor, feeling deeply saddened. The next day, Shizuki and Kusunoki head to the cafeteria to eat, joined by Tsuji and Hirono, as they sit around the table enjoying their meals. Hirono remarks that for some reason, everything tastes particularly delicious today. He turns to Tsuji for his opinion, but Tsuji, with his usual attitude, simply responds that the food isn't that great. Sipping his juice and sitting with a casual demeanor, Shizuki observes the group. He thinks Hirano seems overly excited when he glances at Kusunoki, who is quietly eating and appears sad. He is struck by how miserable she looks. He wonders if she is okay, noticing she hasn't said a single word yet. Suddenly, Hirano curiously asks Kusunoki if she attended the same middle school as Shizuki. Kusunoki is taken back by the question. Shizuki explains that although they went to the same middle school, they were in different classes and only started talking to each other here in high school. Suji nonchalantly remarks that this means they haven't been friends for very long. Then Hirano stands up from his chair and with a confused smile, comments to Shizuki that it's nice. With a bit of fear in his heart, he tells everyone that he also wants to be friends with Kusunoki. He extends his hand for a handshake and asks for her contact information, offering to give her his number in return. With this sudden behavior, everyone is stunned into silence. Kusunoki doesn't respond, making Haruno realize she is ignoring him. He quickly apologizes for his sudden approach. Shizuki watches the scene unfold, then turns to Kusunoki and, in a polite manner, assures her that it's fine and that he thinks she and Haruno would make good friends. He adds that once she gets to know Haruno, she'll see he's a pretty serious and nice guy. Hearing this, Kusunoki remains silent and confused, but she trusts Shizuki and agrees with him. She comments that if Shizuki says so, she can do it. Suji and Haruno are astonished by her response. Haruno quickly thanks Kusunoki for her kindness and asks her to wait, as he doesn't have his phone with him right now. Shizuki tells him that his phone is probably in the classroom. Haruno promises he'll be back shortly. Later, at school, Shizuki and Haruno stand together. Haruno clasps his hands in front of him and sincerely thanks Shizuki for helping him build a friendship with Kusunoki. Shizuki modestly comments that he didn't do much. Haruno, however, insists that he's serious and that it's all thanks to Shizuki. He adds that he never thought he'd be able to exchange contact information with Kusunoki. Watching Haruno, Shizuki thinks he seems unusually happy about this. He realizes that Haruno's obvious delight indicates he genuinely likes Kusunoki. Shizuki, smiling, comments that Haruno is experiencing the wonders of youth. He then politely asks if they're finished and if they should head back to the classroom. Haruno stops him again, saying he has one more request. Shizuki starts to sweat, wondering what it could be. Haruno's request is for him and Kusunoki to have lunch together. Shizuki agrees and sends a message to Kusunoki on Haruno's behalf. As Shizuki sends the message, he feels a surge of irritation. Thinking that Haruno should be asking Kusunoki himself, he sends it anyway because Haruno had begged him, saying he was too shy to make such a request directly. Shizuki also wonders why, if Haruno is so shy and unable to ask for lunch directly, he would still want Kusunoki's phone number. After a moment, Shizuki sits in class, and Kusunoki is there as well. When she picks up her phone, Shizuki notices that she has seen his message. He gestures for her attention, but when she looks at him, she suddenly turns her face down, appearing sad and doesn't speak. Shizuki is left stunned and confused by her reaction. Shizuki thinks that Kusunoki might be ignoring him and wonders if she is upset, which could explain her behavior. He questions why she might be feeling this way. Just then, Suji approaches Shizuki to say goodbye as school is ending. Shizuki returns the farewell. In silence, Kusunoki stands up, grabs her bag, and heads outside. Shizuki realizes that Kusunoki has been acting strangely ever since their phone call yesterday, and her behavior at lunch today was no different. Suddenly, he puts his hand on his head, feeling a surge of anxiety. He thinks to himself that he needs to stop overthinking things about girls and pull himself together. Shizuki decides in his mind that he won't let Kusunoki's mood affect him. Whether she's angry or not is none of his concern. As Kusunoki leaves the school silently, Shizuki follows her, and soon they are standing together on the street. With a polite and somewhat apprehensive expression, Kusunoki asks him what's wrong. Shizuki remains silent, looking down at the ground. Shizuki feels uneasy about questioning Kusunoki's behavior, but he eventually asks why she is ignoring him. Kusunoki simply responds by asking if they should continue talking to each other. Shizuki is confused by her reply. She then points out that it was he who said she shouldn't talk to him at school. Hearing this, Shizuki feels guilty and thinks that Kusunoki knows how to argue. She then turns and starts walking away with Shizuki watching her. As she walks, she tells him that she knows he hates her. Shizuki is stunned by her accusation. Kusunoki glances back at him and adds that she can tell he's pushing her towards his other friends. Kusunoki sadly adds that she knows he wants to end the friendship, which is why she has been behaving this way. Realizing this, Shizuki thinks he can't deny that she might be right. Even though he was the one who saw her in a difficult situation similar to his own and reached out to her, he acknowledges her feelings. Shizuki realizes that he was so caught up in his own feelings that he ended up treating Kusunoki as if she were insignificant. He reflects on his childhood, remembering a time when he approached someone with a hopeful heart asking to be their friend. At that time, the person had rejected his offer and apologized. Shizuki realizes how deeply such actions can hurt people. Understanding that he has done something wrong, he approaches Kusunoki, apologizes sincerely, and asks for her forgiveness. Kusunoki sits on the ground, still looking sad, and politely admits that she isn't very good at talking to boys. Kusunoki adds that she was bullied in middle school, which has made boys seem intimidating to her ever since. Shizuki points out that he is a boy too. Kusunoki quickly looks at him and emphatically says that he is an exception and not like the others. Kusunoki adds that back in middle school, Shizuki was often in the library like she was, and they were in the same class. She admits that she never expected they'd end up starting high school together or find so many things in common. Kusunoki comments that she feels at ease when she's with Shizuki, and that's why she's okay with him being her only male friend, even though she wants friends. Shizuki sits down beside her and starts crying. He tells her that he understands and will stop trying so hard to find other friends for her. Kusunoki thanks him in response. Shizuki feels his own heart pounding loudly and rapidly. Kusunoki then reveals that her heart is also racing. Shizuki is surprised to hear this. Kusunoki gives him a warm smile and politely mentions that this is the first time she has ever had a disagreement with a friend. Shizuki's gaze lingers and he realizes that this is the first time he's had a disagreement with a female friend, which is why his heart is racing. Kusunoki stands up and politely asks if they can talk more, even at school. Shizuki agrees and gives her permission. As she walks away with a happy heart, Shizuki watches her from behind, still puzzled and wondering if there could be any other reason for his heart pounding so intensely. The next day, while they are all in the classroom, a lady teacher enters with a cheerful expression. She announces that, to help all the newly enrolled students get to know each other, they will be holding their traditional dodgeball tournament, where all the classes will compete against each other. She adds that since not everyone can be on the same team, they will be drawing lots to decide the team members. Upon hearing this, Shizuki feels sad and thinks that the teachers must see them as kids to organize a dodgeball tournament. Worried, he considers the possibility of being chosen as a player and messing up in front of everyone, which would be embarrassing. He also realizes that if they compete against other classes, Hevikoa will be there too. His face turns even more anxious at the thought. He steps forward to draw lots, feeling extremely worried and nervous. The mere thought of being chosen makes him feel sick, and he desperately hopes he won't be picked. In his heart, he prays to God for strength. After drawing lots, Shizuki and the others sit on the stairs. Shizuki is in a sad mood, while Tsuji and Hirano are in high spirits. Tsuji is drinking juice, and the others are eating as well. In casual tone, Tsuji mentions that luck seems to be on Shizuki's side, adding that he wishes he could play too. Shizuki thinks about how he had a bad feeling when he drew his lot, and it still ended up like this. He simply says he wants to go home. Tsuji agrees, saying that just cheering for their team is kind of boring, and he wants to go home too. Hirano, speaking loudly, comments that their morale is way too low and urges everyone to get High-Tall ready. Saying this, Hirano moves up the stairs. Tsuji asks where this enthusiasm is coming from, reminding him that he didn't make the team and should calm down. Hirano, grinning, says to think about it, they usually don't have PE class with the girls, but today they get a full display of them in workout clothes. He happily adds that this alone is more than enough. Tsuji and Shizuki, however, remain calm and look ahead. Seeing their lack of enthusiasm, Hirano gets a little angry and tells them not to ignore him. Just then, Kusunoki arrives and calls out to Shizuki, mentioning that she finally found him. She is also dressed casually. Hirano is stunned when he sees her. Kusunoki explains that the teachers are about to go over the rules and want all team members to come to the gym. Kusunoki asks Shizuki if he wants to go with her. Before he can respond, Hirano quickly says that Shizuki will go and orders him to go right now. Shizuki, surprised by this, realizes that Kusunoki must have been chosen too. He tells her that he hasn't finished eating yet, so she can go ahead. Hirano sternly warns him that he doesn't have the right to decline Kusunoki's invitations and orders him to go now. Shizuki reluctantly agrees and goes with Kusunoki. As they walk, Kusunoki asks if he's sure it's okay. He reassures her that it is and tells her not to worry about it. When Shizuki looks at her properly, he notices her face is shining. He comments that she looks kind of excited. Kusunoki is surprised to hear this. Shizuki explains that he thought she might not like these kinds of events, and is surprised she's into them. With a confused expression, she tells him he's right. She doesn't like them. Then smiling, she adds that this time might be fun because they'll be playing together. Shizuki is astonished by her words. He suddenly turns his face, feeling hot, and thinks it must be a particularly warm day. They reach the area where everyone is gathered, with the teacher standing in front. She happily announces that Class A's first match is against Class B. Shizuki hears this and becomes anxious, commenting that he can't handle it. Suddenly, Hirano appears and calls out to Shizuki from behind, chiding him for giving up before the match has even started and ordering him to show some fighting spirit. Shizuki is stunned to see Hirano there and asks why he's there since he's not playing. Hirano replies that he switched with someone who didn't want to play. Hirano adds that his greatest desire is to personally protect Kusunoki. Shizuki thinks that if that's the case, then why didn't Hirano switch with him? Meanwhile, some of the guys approach Hirano and insist that they also want to protect Kusunoki, commenting on Hirano's cockiness. Hirano, angered, turns to Shizuki and warns him that he's dead wrong if he thinks he can beat him. Shizuki, confused, asks if they're not supposed to be teammates. As they argue, some girls in the corner watch them. The girls are questioning why the guys are being so annoying. Kusunoki overhears their conversation. One girl comments that everything is happening because of Kusunoki, and that the boys in their class are all idiots. Another girl agrees, saying that Kusunoki is at the center of it all, and adds that from what she can tell, Kusunoki is a man-eater. Hearing this, Kusunoki feels deeply saddened and lowers her head in shame. Shizuki notices her distress and approaches worried about her. He politely asks Kusunoki if something is wrong. She gives herself a quick slap and assures him that she's fine. After a while, the teams line up. Shizuki looks around anxiously. The teacher announces that the match between Class A and Class B is about to begin. Hirano is visibly excited, but Shizuki is preoccupied with worry about Hebikawa. He scans the opposing team and realizes she's neither with her team nor behind the lines. He wonders if she didn't come to school today. Shizuki, feeling a sense of relief, silently thanks God, thinking that his prayers were answered. He's genuinely happy that Hebikawa hadn't shown up until now. Suddenly, the teacher starts looking around, confused, and asks if someone is missing. Shizuki, with a feigned expression of innocence, asks who is not here. Just then, they hear footsteps approaching, and Hebikawa appears. Shizuki's relief quickly fades as he realizes she has arrived after all. With a smiling face, Hebikawa apologizes to everyone for making them wait. She explains that it took her some time to change clothes, but hopes it's all right now. The teacher, pleased with her dramatic entrance despite the delay, assures her to be more punctual in the future. She then instructs everyone to line up. As Shizuki watches Hebikawa, he starts sweating and becomes increasingly anxious. Tsuji also looks worried as he watches Hebikawa and mutters that he couldn't ask for more. Shizuki feels a deep sense of dread and comments that this situation is the worst. However, he reminds himself to stay calm and approach the situation rationally. He decides there is only one optimal course of action for him right now and resolves to act quickly. As the match begins and the players start moving with the ball, Shizuki positions himself to catch it. Suddenly, Hirano steps in front of him and grabs the ball himself. Hirano apologizes to Shizuki, saying that today is his moment to shine. Shizuki feels a surge of anger towards him. Hirano adds that he needs to impress Kusunoki with his skills. As Hirano throws the ball to hit an opponent, it unexpectedly slips from his hand and heads straight for Hebikawa. Both Hirano and Shizuki are stunned by the turn of events. Just as the ball is about to hit Hebikawa, another player rushes in and blocks the ball, saving her from the impact. The player who blocked the ball declares with a lot of attitude that he's the one who will protect Hebikawa. He turns to her and calmly assures her that he'll deal with anyone who tries to target her. Hebikawa thanks him with a sweet smile. Fueled by anger, the player hurls the ball powerfully at Hirano. The ball strikes Hirano, sending him crashing hard to the ground. Shizuki watches in concern as Hirano collapses. Meanwhile, the opposing team members assert that they're not going to lose this game. They aggressively engage, hitting each other with the ball, and even targeting the girls, causing chaos on the field. After some time, all the players are out of the game except for Shizuki and Kusunoki on one side, and Hebiko with a guy who saved her on the other. Shizuki scans the field, searching for a chance to grab the ball and make a play. The other players cheer loudly, marveling at how it's come down to just these four. Frustrated, Shizuki thinks to himself that this is the end game, and he's still stuck in it. He wonders what he should do next. From the sidelines, Hirano shouts at him, urging him to play hard and make sure Kusunoki doesn't get hurt. Shizuki thinks they'd come this far, but they need to play defensively until the very end. He feels conflicted about having to cover for Kusunoki as well, making him feel like his hands are tied. While he's mulling this over, Kusunoki suddenly steps forward and stands bravely in front of the opposing player. Shizuki is taken aback and urgently tells her not to stand in front of them. He worries about her safety, stressing that it's too dangerous to be so close to someone like that. The guy hurls the ball at Kusunoki, declaring he won't hold back just because she's a girl, so she shouldn't expect any leniency. As the ball hurtles toward Kusunoki, Shizuki rushes forward and jumps in front of her to protect her. The ball strikes in with full force and he crashes to the ground. Kusunoki is taken aback by Shizuki's sudden act of bravery. Lying on the floor in pain, Shizuki laments that he couldn't catch the ball and wonders what kind of person throws such a hard shot at a girl. Shizuki reflects that if he hadn't intervened, the ball would have hit Kusunoki very hard. He suddenly remembers his earlier remarks about her. As he lies on the ground, Kusunoki approaches him with concern. With a gentle and concerned expression, she asks if he's okay and apologizes for everything. Noticing a painful scratch on his arm, she exclaims in surprise that he's injured and insists he should go to the nurse's office right away. Shizuki reassures Kusunoki that he's fine and advises her to stay clear of that aggressive player. He suggests she play more defensively for her own safety. Despite this, Kusunoki stands up, retrieves the ball, and declares that she's going to avenge Shizuki. Shizuki is taken aback by her determination. With a surge of anger, Kusunoki advances and hurls the ball at the guy who injured Shizuki. The impact is so powerful that the guy falls to the ground and loses consciousness. The entire field is stunned by the intensity of her throw. The other players are in disbelief, exclaiming that it's impossible. Hebiko watches the fallen player, but remains silent. Then the teacher announces loudly that Kusunoki's performance was incredible, taking out 2 players on her own, and declares Class A the winners. Kusunoki turns to Shizuki with a sweet smile. Shizuki is completely taken aback. He reflects on the situation, wondering if Kusunoki was always this formidable. Bowing his head to the ground, he mutters that things turned out better than he expected. The other girl checks on Hebikawa, asking if she's alright after Kusunoki's hit. She commends that Kusunoki is a real wild card. Another girl approaches Hebikawa with a laugh, hoping her arm isn't broken. Hebiko glares at her and angrily asks why she's laughing. The girl quickly apologizes. Later, Shizuki and his friends walk together. Tsuji remarks that he never expected they'd win the match. Hirano, in high spirits, praises Kusunoki, saying he never expected her to be so impressive. Meanwhile, Shizuki feels a twinge of sadness. Hirano then remembers he forgot to greet Kusunoki and plans to go over. Tsuji suggests he might as well forget it, noting that something odd is happening. When Shizuki turns to look, he is taken aback to see a crowd of guys gathered around Kusunoki, eager to praise her bravery. Shizuki is surprised and reflects on how popular she has become. He decides that maybe he should step in and help her out. Seeing the crowd around Kusunoki, Haruno remarks on her newfound popularity. Tsuji agrees, noting that Kusunoki is like the main character while they seem like minor players from different worlds. He nudges Haruno, suggesting they should leave to avoid bothering her further. As they head out, Shizuki watches Kusunoki with a melancholy expression. He lowers his gaze and follows him outside, reflecting sadly on Tsuji's words about being from different worlds. As Shizuki is lost in thought, Kusunoki suddenly approaches him and asks if she has done something to upset him. Kusunoki notes that their eyes had met, and it seemed like he was trying to avoid her. Shizuki reassures her, explaining that he didn't want to intrude and thought it best to step outside. Kusunoki moves closer and gently tells him that he is never a bother to her. Shizuki is taken aback by her words. Seeing the tears in her eyes, Kusunoki admits that she actually wanted him to reach out to her. She explains that with so many people surrounding her, she felt overwhelmed and thought she might faint. Shizuki takes in her expression and realizes what she means. Suddenly, Kusunoki lowers her head and lets out a small cry. Concerned, Shizuki asks her what's wrong. She looks up at him with a sweet smile and says she feels relieved now that they've had a chance to talk. Shizuki responds, saying he's also very happy to have this moment with her. Shizuki feels a wave of relief, knowing that Kusunoki is okay. Hearing a faint noise, Kusunoki curiously asks if he said something. Shizuki replies no and tells her to ignore it. He turns around with a smile and suggests that they'll meet again, reminding her to go change her clothes. Kusunoki is puzzled by his comment but walks away, thinking that if he tells her to ignore something, it will only linger in her mind. As she's mulling over what Shizuki said, Hebikawa, the girl from the match, suddenly appears in front of her from another room. Kusunoki is taken aback to see Hebikawa and comments that she's the same girl from Class B. Hebikawa introduces herself, and Kusunoki notes that while she had recognized her during the game, Hebikawa now seems even more strikingly beautiful. Kusunoki's gaze then falls on Hebikawa's arm, which is wrapped in a bandage. Concerned, she asks if Hebikawa was injured. Hebikawa confirms that she was and adds with a smile that her arm has swollen up since the match. She remarks to Kusunoki that she's stronger than she appears. Kusunoki humbly apologizes and suggests that Hebiko should boil or fry her if it would make her feel better. Hebiko reassures her, saying there's no need to be so dramatic. Her arm is fine now and doesn't hurt anymore. Hebiko then steps closer and says she finds Kusunoki truly interesting, revealing that she's been thinking about her for some time. Kusunoki is taken aback and surprised by this. Hebiko politely asks if they could be friends, leaving Kusunoki stunned by the unexpected offer. Kusunoki gives a confused smile and asks if Hebiko really means they're going to be friends. Hebiko confirms with a smile, saying she's happy to befriend such a cute girl. Kusunoki feels nervous about the new friendship, but ultimately agrees and asks Hebiko to take care of her. Hebiko then requests to be called Rarisa instead of Hebiko, as she doesn't like her last name. Kusunoki agrees and suggests that she can call her Shizuka. They both smile and begin walking together, pleased with their new friendship. Suddenly, Kusunoki pauses and starts thinking deeply. She realizes she needs to tell Shizuki about her new friendship. Politely, she asks Hebikawa if they can put their friendship on hold for the time being. Later that night, Kusunoki calls Shizuki and tells him everything. Shizuki is taken aback and asks if she really made friends with Hebikawa. Kusunoki confirms, explaining that after the match, Hebikawa approached her and requested to be friends. Shizuki is initially shocked, but then reflects on Kusunoki's impressive performance in the dodgeball tournament. He considers that perhaps her positive impression on the girls has led to this new friendship. Shizuki realizes the situation and comments that it's great news, congratulating Kusunoki. However, she informs him that their friendship is still on hold. Curious, Shizuki asks why. Kusunoki explains that if she doesn't, she might have to end her friendship with him. This makes Shizuki recall his own words, where he mentioned that their friendship would end if she made new friends, and that their bond was only temporary. He acknowledges that he had forgotten about that. Kusunoki admits that it might be a bit selfish on her part. Kusunoki politely adds that she wants to spend more time with Shizuki. Confused, he asks why she's saying this. She clarifies that it's because she likes him. Shizuki is astonished and taken aback by her confession. She reassures him that she's speaking the truth and explains that he is the first friend she has ever made. Shizuki sits back in his chair, puzzled about whether she means it as a friendship or something more, and wonders why she makes such ambiguous statements. Kusunoki quickly adds that if her feelings are troubling him, she will step back. Shizuki reassures her that it doesn't bother him at all. When Kusunoki hears Shizuki's response, she suddenly shouts into the phone in excitement. Shizuki is taken aback and tells her to stop shouting. She starts smiling, apologizes for her outburst, and expresses her happiness at the prospect of continuing their friendship. Meanwhile, Shizuki reflects that he might have been expecting a bit too much, considering it's Kusunoki. Even if she makes a new female friend, he thought she might say something like this. However, he feels it's a bit unfair to him. Kusunoki, feeling relieved and happy, excitedly mentions that now she can share this news with Arisa. Shizuki then asks Kusunoki about the friend she has made. Kusunoki happily tells him that her new friend is Rarista Hebikawa from Class B. She adds that she'll introduce her to him as well. When Shizuki hears Hebikawa's name, he is shocked and shouts into the phone. Kusunoki, taken aback by his reaction, asks him not to shout like that. The next day at school, Shizuki sits at a table in complete silence. Shuji glances over and asks what's wrong, noting that it looks like Shizuki's soul is leaving his body. But Shizuki has been like this since the morning. Meanwhile, Shizuki is deep in thought, reflecting that Kusunoki didn't initiate the friendship. It was clearly Hebikawa. He wonders why Hebikawa did it and worries that their differing personalities might not mesh well. He fears that if things go awry, Kusunoki might end up being bullied. As he ponders these concerns, Hirano suddenly looks out the window and appears shocked. Hirano exclaims loudly for Shuji to look outside, commenting that it's insane. He points out that Kusunoki and Hebikawa are standing together chatting. Suji looks over and notes that it seems like they're pretty close. He adds, puzzled, that it's the first time he's seen Kusunoki hanging out with other girls. Harino grins, saying with a smile that only the most beautiful and academically gifted students could form a friendship. When Shizuki hears this, he shouts back, emphatically insisting that they are not the same. Harano is taken aback by Shizuki's reaction. After Shizuki leaves, Harano turns to Suji and asks what's going on. Suji admits he has no idea. Actually, both Kusunoki and Hebikawa are beautiful. They are very different from each other. Later, Shizuki and Kusunoki are in a school hallway cleaning the floor. Kusunoki politely informs Shizuki that she plans to hang out with Hebikawa. Shizuki is stunned and asks if she is really going out with her. Kusunoki replies that they are planning to hang out this Sunday. Shizuki feels a pang of sadness, wondering if they have already grown so close or if he's misjudging the situation. Then a thought occurs to him, and he asks Kusunoki if she has discussed their middle school with Hebikawa yet. Kusunoki responds that she hasn't. Shizuki feels a sense of relief, thinking that if it becomes known that Kusunoki and he went to the same middle school, not only could Kusunoki face trouble, but his own position might also be at risk. As they talk, Shizuki notices some girls chatting upstairs. He calls Kusunoki over to a corner under the stairs. Kusunoki agrees and follows Shizuki to a secluded corner where they can talk privately. Shizuki gently advises her not to mention their middle school to Hebikawa, as Hebikawa too attended the same middle school. Kusunoki looks surprised at this revelation. Shizuki explains that Hebikawa's name back then was Takagaki. Shizuki asks Kusunoki if she remembers Hebikawa from middle school. Kusunoki shakes her head, saying she doesn't know, as she didn't interact much with anyone back then. Shizuki advises her gently that if Hebikawa finds out about their shared middle school, it could lead to significant trouble. Therefore, she should avoid discussing anything related to middle school with Hebikawa. Kusunoki happily agrees with Shizuki's advice. He adds that if Hebikawa brings up middle school, she should try to change the subject or steer the conversation elsewhere. Kusunoki fully understands his instructions. As Shizuki starts to move away, Kusunoki calls him back and politely asks if she can still contact him later that evening. Even though it's not practice day, she mentions that she has something she wants to ask him. Shizuki asks if it's not possible for her to ask him now. Kusunoki replies that she can't say it at the moment. She mentions that she has something she wants to show him. Shizuki is stunned and surprised by her words. Kusunoki explains that she will send him a picture when she gets home and adds that since it's a bit embarrassing, he should make sure to look at it when he's alone.